Hello everyone, and today we're going to talk about another topic that is pretty personal and pretty difficult for me to talk about. But first I want to thank you for the great response to my first video. It was overwhelming. It got a lot more views than I expected it to. I didn't think that many people cared. So thank you so much for supporting me so far. And let's get into it. Today I want to talk about a struggle with eating that is called food aversion. And food aversion is something that you can struggle with both if you are an adult or a child. It can be caused by many different things. For example, pregnant people often get food aversion. Food aversion, in short, is when food, often a particular food, but it can just be any food in general, makes you feel nauseous. You can even gag from the smell or sight of it. It's a very interesting condition, and I have days where I struggle with this immensely. Days where I don't want to eat because thinking of eating makes me feel nauseous, but then again, not eating also makes me nauseous, so there's really no way to win in this situation. And today is one of those days, which is why I wanted to talk about it. So food aversion is difficult because, well, you need to eat, you need to fuel your body, you need to consume food in order to, well, function on a basic level. If you don't do that, then, well, you die, and that's not good. So what I do usually personally when I struggle with food aversion is to start getting interrupted by my fluffy friends who think it's very interesting that I'm on the floor. So what I do for my food aversions is often I pick out foods that are very easy to consume, that you can eat over a long period of time. So not something warm, because that will get cold, because it usually takes me a long time to get through a plate of food. So something cold like a sandwich or veggies that are just raw, salad, something that is supposed to be cold or room temperature when you eat it, so the temperature thing is not a problem. Because the addition of the wrong temperature will also make me more nauseous, so that's a good thing to avoid. I also have a short list of foods that I can always eat, where even if I have food aversion days or days where I just don't want to eat anything, eating them is still, not as nice as it would be otherwise, but it's still fine. For example, I can always eat cucumber. Cucumber is always at least, well, okay for me to eat. Some other things are some fruits are always fine. Cherry tomatoes are always fine as well, as long as they're fresh. Also sugar peas. I can almost always eat sugar peas. So what I usually do is I have those so-called safe foods always in my kitchen. So if I have a day where I feel nauseous when I think about food or the concept of eating, I can just grab one of those. Now I do realize that a bowl full of sugar peas isn't that much. It doesn't have that much of a caloric intake. You do need to eat more things in a day than sugar, other than sugar peas and cucumbers. You can't live off that alone. But the thing with food aversion is that it makes it very difficult to consume food of any kind, in any form. And eating something is always better than eating nothing. At least that's my philosophy, because if I eat nothing, then I'll just end up getting even more nauseous, and then it becomes this evil circle where I just run round and round and round and round, and nothing gets solved. So instead of eating nothing, I prefer to eat too little, but at least it's something, What I also do on these days that helps a lot is I eat in intervals. I don't eat like a full meal at once. I just have a full meal that I split up into bigger parts, and then I eat them throughout the day, which is not great for your teeth, but at least you get food in you. It might take a long time, but at least it works. Something that also makes it difficult to have food aversions, to struggle with that kind of problem, is the fact that what I can eat in a day always changes. I can have days where peas is absolutely fine. I can have days where they are disgusting and I hate them, and I get nauseous just thinking about them. I can have days where fruit is the best thing on the planet and I can't do anything but eat fruit. It varies a lot, and it makes it difficult also in social situations, like if we're going out to eat. Because usually when I'm having food aversions, I want just one thing at a time. Like, I want a stack of cucumber sticks, and that is it. I don't want to look at any other food, I don't want to smell any other food, I don't want any other food to be near me, because that will make me nauseous. So going out to eat, for example, with a group of friends, is very difficult because there are very few places where you can just walk inside and go, yeah, I want a bowl of cherry tomatoes and nothing but cherry tomatoes, without sounding like an absolute bitch. So also parties, because there are usually snacks and I don't want snacks. But then there are also people who get insulted if you don't eat any of the food they've prepared, and they start to ask you like, are you on a diet or are you the vegan or something else, and you just kind of have to go, no, your food is making me nauseous. And that's not very polite. Food aversions are pretty common depending on the severity. Mine can be severe, but they can also be very, very light. In the most severe case, it can also lead to like malnutrition and more horrible stuff. But in my case, it's just usually a few days or maybe a week that I'm struggling at a time. So I'm pretty okay. It's also very common in people who are neurodivergent in different ways, especially with autism and ADHD, but also with other diagnoses that puts you in that category of people. It is very, very common. There are also certain hormonal changes that can bring on food aversions. For example, if you're pregnant, then you can get food aversions very, very easily. We've all seen on TV that a pregnant person is either really drawn to or completely disgusted by certain kinds of foods, and that is food aversion. It can also have to do with sensory processing, which is why it's common in neurodivergent people, because it doesn't have to be just the taste of the food. It can be smell, how it looks, texture. There are so many different categories that could contribute to a food aversion. In most cases, food aversion doesn't need to be diagnosed because usually the cases are very mild and it's usually just concerning one food or certain types of food, which, you know, you can supplement those foods with other things that have similar nutritional values. So usually you don't need a diagnosis, but there are also cases where you definitely should see a doctor, like if you're losing a lot of weight, or if you are losing a very clear group of nutrients, you should also see a doctor. And also if it's becoming just in general extremely severe, like you can't be in the house if there is any kind of food in the house, which I also know has been the case in a few cases. So there are cases where you should see a doctor, but I, for example, don't need to see a doctor about mine because it is decently mild. Another note on being social and having food aversions: I am ever at a party and people ask me like, why aren't you having any of the snacks? I usually don't go, oh well, because I have food aversions and blah 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 blah, because all they're gonna hear is, I think your food is gross, which makes it very difficult to be honest about struggling with this, because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. That's the last thing I want to do. But in social situations, it is hard to not be able to eat properly. Thankfully for me, this is just something I struggle with every once in a while, a few days at a time, like once or twice a month. It's not that big of a deal for me. But there are also cases where this is constant, which is why I'm making this video, because I want you to be aware of this problem that a lot of people have. And it is very common, and people don't tend to think about it because it can just be a strong dislike of a food to a lot of people, but it can also be extreme nausea. So the spectrum is really, really large. So yeah, those were my thoughts on food aversion. I just wanted to make something quick because I have been struggling with this quite a lot today. Actually, it's been really difficult for me today and yesterday. And I wanted to kind of, share with you and take you along on my journey. I'm thinking I'm gonna quit rambling on about this now. The video is already longer than I wanted to be again. I'm really good at talking. I don't have a lot of talents, but talking is one of them. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to me talk about food aversions and my struggle with it. And also, I hope if you're struggling with food aversions, you found some useful tips in this video, what you can do to maybe, lessen the impact of this on your life. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna link my channel over there so you can subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And then I'm gonna link the most recent video over here. It should be the gender Q&A, which has been very popular. So I will see you later.